What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below, so please feel free to use them. But if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. Just a huge thank you for taking the time out of your day to be here. Spending 20 minutes or so with the channel means the absolute world to me, so thank you so much for doing you. Keep doing you, and let's crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from Dia de Amo. I don't know if I pronounced that right, I do apologize. Am I the arsehole for being a witness and ending up with the sheriff's department being under investigation? This happened a few months ago, and I'm still getting yelled at and told I am a horrible person for this. I recently moved into a very small town. Not even a single stoplight small, and shortly after moving I came across a car on fire off a side street. I ran over and did what I could to help. I called the fire department and ended up giving the 17-year-old driver a ride home. A week later, I went to dinner with some friends and was telling them the story of the car fire, thinking I did a nice thing. One of the women, SW, at dinner is married to the local sheriff and was going on and on about how honest and wonderful this town is except for a few families. One of the outcast families happened to have the same last name as the young man, YM. I drove home. Fast forward and I end up getting called as a witness for a criminal case against the YM. I went to give my statement and saw SW there with her husband. I introduced myself to the sheriff and he told me how happy he was that I was there to do the right thing. After a confusing conversation with them, I was called to go give my statement. They asked me questions like, when did I first see the YM rob the local store? Did I see the YM run from the police? When did I see YM pull out a weapon? When did the car catch fire? It took me longer than I cared to admit to piece together they were trying to pin crimes on YM, and for whatever reason they thought the new girl in town would fall in line and say what they wanted. I ended up informing them that no, that is not what happened. I was the one that called the fire department. There were no cops around until they were called to help the fire department. After they tried to make me sound like I was lying, I lost my temper and told them I still have the video footage of both the car fire and the ride home with YM. I left the next day for a work trip, and when I got home people in town were yelling at me and flipping me off. I asked a co-worker what happened while I was away and was informed because of me not doing the right thing, the entire sheriff's department ended up being put under investigation for their misconduct. The whole town now blames me for this and ought to seem to think I'm the biggest asshole. I thought I did the right thing, but everyone else seems to think different. Am I the asshole? I've seen this before. I've watched a Netflix documentary a couple of months ago. You got to get out of that town. And in this Netflix documentary, it's sort of very similar to what's happened. Well, not quite similar as here. The Netflix documentary was way worse. It was called Making a Murder, I think, and it was about a local town which everyone considered sort of like rogues of the town, if you like, and they owned a local junkyard, and then someone got murdered, and it was blamed on one of the Avery family. They checked this trailer out, they didn't find evidence, then suddenly, I think it was a week later or something, they went back there and then they did find evidence, and it was like in a really obvious spot as well. And there's so many twists and turns, and obviously it's edited that way to keep you interested, but it does raise questions about the police in that local area, and just makes you ask questions about what is going on there, and is there really corruption, or is it just this guy really was the murderer? Very interesting. You should see it if you haven't. But it had me thinking, is this stuff really going on in like these small little towns over in the US and stuff? I have no doubt it goes on all over the world, you know, but I do find it very interesting. I'm obsessed with crime documentaries just recently. But for OP, of course they did the right thing here. They told the absolute truth, absolutely, but it may have cost you at some point if we go down the documentary route. But Pistol Rose says, not the arsehole, but I'd move. Even if it required getting a new job. Even if it was a job I didn't like very much. And Red Rose Beetle says, I agree with you, OP is a hero, but she's going to get her house broken into or her ass kicked, or pulled over for some bullshit reason, or thrown in a drunk tank overnight when she's sober. My husband once filed a complaint against the police of a notoriously corrupt city. He got death threats and ran off the road by police a few times. Since he was in the military, he had to get his commander involved and have his commander tell the police to fuck off. Flagging OP for you to see this. I'm worried about your safety. And Jojo Cruz says, not the arsehole. What you uncovered is probably the tip of a very large iceberg. They would not be reacting like this unless they had a lot of skeletons in their collective closets. I hope you have a home security system for your own sake. This sounds extremely volatile. Is it possible to stay with a friend or family member in another town for a little while? You might also want to contact whoever is investigating the sheriff's department and notify them of your situation. Edited to say, like others, I think you are unfortunately going to have to move. The fallout from this is going to make your life really difficult. Wow, I can't believe it's really happened. It's like the documentary is happening. It's crazy. And Candy Forever says, not the arsehole, totally watch your back. It may not be safe for you to live there anymore. And Big Brown Boy 666 says, not the arsehole, not the arsehole, not the arsehole, not the arsehole. Small towns, much like high schools, have their own cliques. You obviously upset this by doing the right thing and exposing corruption within that police department. You should not feel bad about doing the right thing. When those assholes treat you like that, all it shows you is that they are part of the problem. Good on you for standing up for what's right. And Jeepers Creeper says, not the arsehole. Before you testified, you took out an oath what would tell the truth. You did just that. Anything else would have made you an arsehole. Additional kudos to whatever officials saw and or heard of this launched the investigation of the sheriff's department. Wow. I can't believe everyone's actually saying it as wow. I find that just crazy stuff. What do you guys think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Am I the Arsehole question. Am I the arsehole for how I reacted when my wife made me spend the night at my in-laws' house when I wanted to go home? I, male 31, became wheelchair bound 16 months ago due to a spinal cord injury. I've struggled a lot during those difficult times. I went to therapy and that's when things started to get easier. I started learning to adapt and function like anybody else. I tried to be independent. My wife supports me a lot. She helps with heavy work that I'm incapable of handling. Would visit her family from time to time, only for a few hours. Yesterday she wanted to go visit her family and asked if I could spend the night there because she had friends come over for something like a girls' night in. I told her it's okay, I'll just be in my room sleeping since I had to go to bed at 10. But she tried to convince me to stay with her family so the girls could have more privacy and might be loud. Saying that her friends have done the same thing by getting their husbands out of their houses on girls' night ins. I already told her I can't sleep anywhere else other than my room. She dropped it and we went to visit her family. At my in-laws, she was with her mum in the backyard while I was taking a nap in their living room. She left while I was sleeping. My brother-in-law told me she wanted to spend the night with them. I was mad, I just wanted to go home and sleep in my room. I don't like spending time away from home and sleeping in another place. I literally lose sleep if I'm not home. I kept calling her and sent her a text telling her to come pick me up. My mother-in-law convinced me to stay eventually, but I couldn't help but feel mad. I stayed up all night till she showed up in the morning. We didn't talk till we got home. I asked her why she ignored my opinion and made me spend the night away from home, causing me to stay up all night knowing I wasn't comfortable. And she started arguing with me saying it wasn't that big a deal and that I'm overreacting. Her friends want some space and it's unreasonable of me to be mad. I lashed out at her because I felt she made the decision despite hearing my opinion and being inconsiderate of my feelings. She called me unbelievable and called my parents to try to explain to me that I overreacted. My parents said I was being pushy and overdramatic, that it wasn't like she left me at the store or at the park. They said I was being annoying and whiny and have no appreciation and respect for my wife's wishes. My sister said my wife was probably tired of looking after me and wanted me out the house so she could relax and enjoy her time without looking after me. She's not talking to me and wants me to apologise for reacting this way. Hell no, you don't apologise to her for that. Hell, holy shit, man. She sucks and your family sucks for that matter. It's exactly like leaving you at the park or anywhere else for that matter. She left you somewhere. She used your spinal cord injury against you because she knew you couldn't do anything about it. And she just left you there. Absolutely, she's the arsehole. She didn't listen to you when you said you just wanted to be home sleeping. You said you would have stayed in your room, which is no problem in itself. So absolutely, what she done is really disgusting. And I would be super triggered by that. I don't know if I'd want to be with someone who did that to me. And your sister really sucks as well. She makes it sound like you're just a burden to your wife all the time, and it's no. I'm sorry. I'm triggered on this one. I am triggered. Let's go to the comments before I explode. Redoubtable South says and quotes that it wasn't like she left me at the store or the park. And it says, no, it is like she left you at the store or the park. It doesn't matter where she left you, she intentionally used your disability against you for her own gain. And barring some extreme circumstances, that is completely unacceptable. Any validity she may or may not have had about your unwillingness to leave for a girls' night, and I don't think she has much, it's your home too, is completely lost by the fact that she abandoned you somewhere and used your limited mobility against you. She failed to treat you like a person. What she did is out and out abusive. Not the arsehole. And blah freaking blah says, not the arsehole, yikes. There are some massive red flags from both your wife and the rest of your family. I know the stakes were fairly low in this particular scenario, but the fact that they used your inability to drive to physically trap you in a situation you didn't want to be in, that's every disabled person's worst nightmare. What's worse is it seems premeditated. Your wife couldn't convince you to do what she wanted willingly, so she manipulated the situation to where you no longer had a choice. That's terrifying. There are plenty of other red flags, like your wife calling your parents to bring them into a disagreement that's none of their business, your wife/parents invalidating your feelings by calling you overreacting and overdramatic, and your sister implying that you are a burden. As bad as these all are, I can't get over the concept that they would use your disability to manipulate and control you. I would be fuming if I were you. And if my wife/family continued to push back and deny that this was a horrifying thing to do, I'd question whether I ever feel safe around these people. A Maleficent ad says, info, she shouldn't have left you in a place you didn't want to be. However, I do have a few questions. 1. Do you think your wife is suffering from caretaker burnout? 2. Is your wife free to go over to someone else's place for the night while you stay at home by yourself? How constricted is her social life? 3. I once knew someone who was in a wheelchair and had a van outfitted so they could drive it. I'd probably get one so I wouldn't be trapped at someone else's house. I don't know your financial situation. 4. Is this the first time she's ever done something like this? Edited to add, there should be definitely marriage counselling. And OP replies, I don't know, I mean we do argue about stuff sometimes, but it's normal. She's encouraged to be independent, but I don't think she's suffering from burnout because she gets to go out and see her family and friends during weekdays. She has never done it before, never had to spend the night away from home, and it's the same for me. But now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story comes from Allowance Fairness. Am I the arsehole for making it easier for my daughter to earn money over my son? My husband, 38 male, and I, 36 female, have 2 kids, a son, 16 male, and a daughter, 14 female. I used to be close with my son, but as a teenager, he became very withdrawn and moody. I understand this is normal as children grow up, but I think he may be on the extreme end. In his free time, he stays in his room all the time playing games or chatting with his friends, which is fine if balanced, but it's gotten to the point where we only see him during meals, where he won't talk to us, he gives one-word answers and then leaves ASAP. It feels like years the last time I or anyone else in the family had a real conversation with him. This has made me a bit sad, especially as he stopped talking to my parents/his grandparents as well. As a boy, he used to play chess with his grandfather all the time, and they really bonded over it. I know his grandfather has been lonely and wistful over it, particularly as his health has gotten worse. I tried to talk to my son about spending more time with family, even if it's just a little each week, and how appreciative his grandfather would be in particular. It doesn't work, as he complains that I'm just lecturing and guilting him. So I've been thinking about it for a while, and I wanted to try and incentivize spending more time with family. My husband and I instituted a new rule. If my son spent at least 30 minutes a week with family member, he would get a 30% boost to his allowance money. We emphasized it would be 30 minutes of anything with anyone in the family. He could throw a football around with his dad, go biking with his sister, play cards or chess with his grandparents, etc. Just to be clear, even if he didn't do it, he would still get his regular allowance, just not the extra 30%. In order to be fair, we also gave the same option to my daughter. This was a lot easier for her because she's more social than him and was already spending more than 30 minutes with family anyway. She was pretty happy with the new rule. My son, however, was very upset. He complained to us that this new rule punished him and favoured his sister because of their personality differences. He pointed out that she enjoyed socialising and doing family stuff, whereas he didn't, and that it was unfair that she got extra cash for doing things she already likes. He's even moodier and more withdrawn these last couple of days, and the new rule seems to have the opposite of its intended effect. My husband now thinks we might be the arseholes. He says that it's true that the new allowance rule is easier on our daughter. My husband also thinks that we went about this the wrong way and trying to pay our son to spend time with family. That would just make it feel like a job and make him hate doing it. I really don't know at this point, and I'm at the end of my rope. Am I the arsehole? And there is an edit update to this one as well, which we will cover after the comments, so we'll move there straight away to see what they say. And Fish Scrumptious says, a gentle you're the arsehole here. Your choice of incentive assumes a desired personality type and dismisses others. It is, depending on its mental state and neurology, also possibly ableist. It's the equivalent of telling your kids, I'll pay you extra allowance if you go outside and run a mile every day, because exercise and fresh air are important, and there's not a time limit, right, and anyone can do it. Only one of your kids is prone to frequent ankle sprain, so it really isn't fair, as they won't have the same opportunity. I get what you're going for and it's understandable, but you need to do some collaborative problem solving with your son to figure out a solution that meets everyone's needs, which may not be what you think they are, and that can be realistically be executed. Don't think of this as a catastrophic failure. It was a try that failed. So now you, plural as a family, go back and try again to find another way to work on the problem. Very good way of putting it. And Straz says, you're the arsehole. When I was 16, I spent all my time with friends or in my room. That's not uncommon at all. Don't try to force him to spend time with you and punish him when he doesn't. Make a point of letting him know he's welcome and don't make a big deal if he shows up. Nothing makes introverts feel worse than someone who mocks their good behaviour. And I Hate You says, not the arsehole. You aren't asking him to spend hours volunteering in an old folks home with strangers, you're asking him to be part of the family. That's it, for 30 minutes. You aren't saying he has to clean or do chores. Spend 30 minutes with a family member, which probably do him good. Our own therapist told us to stay active with them, even as teens. Ask them to help with ABC or putting together XYZ. Then thank them and say, man, I needed your help, thank you. Want to get a soda and a burger? No? Okay, thanks, and carry on. Don't allow them to completely cut themselves out of the family. They need you more than ever now. It's a difficult time in their lives. Edit, I accept the you're the arsehole judgment, and I see how bribing my son to spend time with his grandparents / family wasn't a good idea. My thinking had been that it would have been a nice incentive to give him a slight push, and that 30 minutes was a small amount for 1 week, but I can see why that would make it seem more like a chore, and perhaps have the opposite effect. I do appreciate everyone sharing their perspective, and believe it or not, it has been reassuring just hearing that this is in fact a very common phenomenon among teen gamers. I still hope he will spend time with his grandfather of his own accord at some point, but I will stop trying to push him / I see how important it is to allow him to come to the decision himself. Since it's come up in the comments a few times, we do try to speak about his interests and offer to do things he likes. For example, both my husband and my daughter also like video games, and they offer to play with him. It would count towards his 30 minutes. However, he said that it would take the fun out of it and he only wants to play with his regular friends. When I ask about some of his games, he is shut down and only give one-word answers. Maybe we need to give him some more space. Lastly, I want to emphasize that we don't mock him for being introverted or draw attention to him when he participates. I'm actually introverted myself and I know how annoying that would be. I think I used to be even more introverted than he was when I was his age, but I still sought out time with my own grandparents, so that's why I was worried his behaviour was unusual. However, I understand that I grew up in a different time and had different interests. And now I turn this one to you guys. What do you guys think of this situation? And I think a lot of the comments are right, that I think myself, I've always grown up like in a big family and love family and try to get involved with them as much as possible. But when I got to a certain point in my teenage life, I did go close myself down and become very introverted and went to my room and played a lot of games and stuff like that. And I remember when people did try to show interest, whether it was really nasty or not, I remember like sort of looking at them and thinking, you're not really interested in what I'm talking about here, like gaming and stuff like that. You're just trying to do it to be involved, which looking back, that was a really nice thing to do, to just try and be involved in the gaming. But I could see they wasn't truly interested at the same time. So it was like, you don't want to give full on answers because you know they're not really interested in what you're saying. So I think I would give a very light arsehole on this one, just because there's probably better ways to get the son involved in the situation, right? But what do you guys think of this situation? Let me know in the comments below. Once again, guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's stories. And if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like, that subscribe, and maybe, just maybe, that notification bell too. A huge thank you for spending 20 minutes or so with us today. It really does mean the world. And I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.